do that. You can take classes, you can read books, you can watch little tutorials on YouTube. It's really a wonderful time to learn anything right now in the world, and also writing. And then tell your story without anybody else looking over your shoulder. So don't worry about marketing, don't worry about reception, don't worry about any of those things, and really just be yourself alone in a room telling a story and enjoying it. I would also say that the tortured writer is something that we promote a lot, which I think is very harmful to beginning writers. The idea that you have to open a vein and bleed on the page, or that you have to be an alcoholic or a drug addict. There has to be a huge amount of suffering to create art. Of course, there is suffering in art, but that doesn't mean the artist has to suffer, and it doesn't mean that's the only story that's worth telling. So I would say don't suffer. And my final thing would be celebrate everything you do. When you finish a first draft, have a party. When you publish something, have a party. Let yourself enjoy what you've accomplished. Because I think writers live a lot in our heads, and we're very neurotic, and we don't take time to step back and say, oh, wow, I did this difficult thing. And even if it's not perfect, it's okay. I did what I could.
Great advice.
Thanks.
You were born in Alaska.
I was actually born in Ohio.
Oh, you were?
And my parents were hippies, and we moved every couple of years throughout my childhood. I went to 21 schools before I graduated from high school.
Wow.
So I don't have necessarily one place where I'm from, but my family is all in Alaska. And that's the last place.
Your origins, Alaska-based. Do you ever plan or think about writing a story that's based there?
I wrote a short story called Callbearer, which came out in Dark Discoveries magazine, and that is set in Anchorage. So I have written some stuff that's set there. My first novel was set in Alaska, but it was terrible, and it's in a drawer. So, which is not Alaska's fault, it's mine.
They say every author has one book in their drawer that nobody gets to see.
I have two.
Oh. Overachiever.
Or underachiever. For me, it took a while before I could really hold a whole novel in my head. So I started with short stories, which is what I was trained to do. I got a degree in creative writing in college. We were trained on short stories. And so you kind of have the structure of a short story. And making the transition from short story to novel was harder for me. And I don't think you have to do it that way. My son wrote his first novel at 16, and he had no trouble keeping it all in his head. And he had no trouble keeping this new series he's working on, which is like multiple books and epic and all this. His brain was big enough to hold all that, but it took me a while to move into that space.
I tell you one thing, Rebecca, one of these days you should write your life story. You have an interesting life going on there.
I think everybody does, but thank you.
Do you have any upcoming new books or events that you would like our listeners to know about?
I'm actually working on a screenplay called Star Child with Thunder Levin, who is the screenwriter who wrote Sharknado. Yeah, so that's been fun. This is a sci fiction story that's set in a future about a girl with special powers who's fleeing from this giant project on Earth, her mother who's trying to protect her and get her to safety.
When is the next Sofia book going to come out?
F is for Fred just came out 2 months ago. G is for Groovy is next up, and that one's Sean Black's, and I think it's supposed to come out in like a month and a half, but I am not entirely certain.
We're looking forward to that. Can't get enough of those.
Thank you. Aren't they fun? Have you listened to the audiobook?
No.
That's something we should do. Who reads that?
Oh my God, Madeline Mrozek reads them, and she is absolutely fantastic. Her audio version of Sofia is just amazingly funny. She has great comic timing, and she does all the characters, and it's really a much, much richer experience to listen to her do the audio of them. So if you like those books, you should totally listen to the audio, because it's amazing.
Oh, I'm going to have to do that.
She's really incredibly talented. I mean, all the audio of all my books is great, and I recommend all of it. But if you love Sofia, the Sofia audio will blow you away, I think.
Oh, Rebecca, we thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show today. Your day is probably only a little bit over. Ours is coming to an end here on the East Coast.
I haven't even broken for lunch yet.
Well, you enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thank you for having me. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I have read the Hannah Vogel series of books that Rebecca writes. They are much darker than the Malibu series books. They are very, very well done. They're set back in the 30s during the Nazi occupation of Germany. They are just very, very well done.
Well, I think Rebecca herself has lived such an interesting life and lived in some very interesting places. She's got a lot to bring to the table as far as experience.
Definitely. And her series with Sean Black, though I haven't read very many of them, I do look forward to reading them. They sound like a lot of fun.
Well, I can certainly relate to Rebecca's experience going to Dachau, as I just went to Dachau this July, and it is such a moving and heavy experience. I think it's a very important lesson that we cannot forget.
Well, that's why we study the past, so we don't repeat it.
Exactly.
She runs the gamut in her writing. She does her lighthearted Malibu series. She does her darker Hannah Vogel series. Plus, she does her vampire series, The Order of the Sanguines. I look forward to reading those.
I guess it keeps life interesting to cover all different genres.
Mix it up a bit.
Yeah.
Yes. I think we found a new author that we look forward to checking out all the spectrum of her writing.
Absolutely.
Thank her for visiting with us.
So we look forward to seeing the G book coming up in the Malibu series, and also the new Hannah Vogel book that she's working on.
And since we are in the holiday season, support Rebecca and all the other authors that we mention on the show. And if you have the opportunity, definitely purchase them from small bookstores.
Rebecca can be found at her website, www.RebeccaCantrell.com. Be sure and visit our website at www.itwasadarkandstormybookclub.com.
It's a mouthful, we know.
And you can
sign up for our newsletter. Speaking of Christmas, in this month's newsletter, we have a couple of suggestions for children's or young adult mysteries that you can buy. We have a lot of other interesting information in the newsletter. We're still looking for short story submissions.
Because what better gift to give than if you're a mystery lover to get a young person into this wonderful world that we enjoy so much.
I got you into it
That's
at a
right.
very young age, and you got your children in at a very young age.
Pass the love along.
My grandkids are avid readers. There's nothing more heartwarming to walk into a room and see a child curled up with a good book instead of a
Tablet.
tab or a phone. It just makes me so proud. That wraps up 91st episode. We are closing in on that 100. We hope you will join us next week and every week.
And stay warm.
Yes. And remember,
Life would be boring without a little mystery.
bye.